Välkomna till Sossepodden Akt 5, där jag idag står med Michael Moyo från Edward Memorial Trust. Och vi ska prata om lokal utveckling i Zimbabwe. Very much welcome to this podcast, Michael. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for that I am here to discuss with you. My name is Michael Moyo, an educationist by profession. I was with the Ministry of Education in Zimbabwe for 14 years as a secondary school teacher, majoring in geography, teaching geography. I hold various awards from the ministry in the teaching of geography. Then, as an educationist, I also belonged to a trade union, one of the largest trade unions in Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe Teachers Association, and I started from the grassroots level as a school representative. Then I became the cluster representative, and I went to district committee, and from there I went to the provincial executive, where I ended up as the provincial secretary for Matabele North Province under the banner of Zimbabwe Teachers Association. I was very passionate about trade unionism and social justice issues. Then I did my honors degree in development studies, which then channeled me to my philanthropic work, and after that I did my master's in business administration, majoring in strategy, and I then joined Edward Ndlovu Memorial Trust in 2021 as programs coordinator, then elevated to the position of the director, which is the position that I currently hold up to now, and I'm passionate about issues to do with climate change and community development work, and in the process of finalizing my registration with UKZN to further my studies and on climate change issues at PhD level. So that's my research interests are on climate change, social justice issues, and labor.
That's quite a history you have. Can you tell us more about the Memorial Trust and how it started, like the history, and what's the name coming from?
Okay, thank you. Right, as you know, the name of our organization is Edward Ndlovu Memorial Trust. Edward Ndlovu, that's the name of a person. Edward Ndlovu was born in Kwanda district at Sengezana, and he was a national hero. After when Zimbabwe attained the independence, Edward became a member of parliament representing Kwanda constituency, Kwanda South constituency, and he was so much passionate about development issues. He didn't last long after the independence. He succumbed to kidney ailment, and after that, his wife, Mary Crook, a Canadian woman, instigated the establishment of the organization, and it was established in 1990 in a small corner in a classroom in Kwanda High School as Edward Ndlovu Community Libraries, with the objective of bringing information to the rural schools, the distribution of books in rural schools. And then it developed to what it is today. And so now the libraries now come under the umbrella of the trust, which now runs 4 programs. So as an organization, we run 4 programs, and guided by our priority areas or our focus areas, where we've got 4 focus areas. Focus area number 1, that's education, information, and library services. Then focus area number 2 is child protection. Focus area number 3, economic empowerment. Focus area number 4 is climate smart agriculture. Then as an organization, we mainstream 3 focus areas. One of them is gender, the second one is disability, and the third one is trainings. We do training, we mainstream trainings for maximum effectiveness in whatever we do. Then we use the approach that we called CPID, community-based inclusive development. Then what does that mean? It means that in everything that we do as an organization, we are leaving no one and no place behind. So we have, that's why we mainstream disability, because in Africa and in rural areas, issues to do with disability, they are viewed in other ways. Some are viewed, there's a stigma around it. Some of those disabled people are not in the public. It's viewed as a case, or it's viewed as a witchcraft or as a punishment. So then we're saying In our programming, we have to take these people on board. That's why we have disability in all our programming. We emphasize on it. Then we emphasize issues to do with gender, so that we have gender equality, because we know that in a patriarchal society, gender, women are at times sidelined. So we want to balance, to strike a balance there. So that's why we take the issues of gender into our programming very serious.
Can you tell me more about the 4 programs you have and what the focuses are about them?
Okay, thank you. Then when I've given you our focus areas, so now I'll break down the work that we do under these focus areas. Under education, information, and library services, we have the library in Kwanda Epen that we run, which is for borrowing and lending of books and other activities. By other activities, I mean that as a library, we also hire out our library space as a venue so that we generate some income. We also have some photocopying services so that we generate some little income that assist us in the smooth running of the organization. We also have a library space outside, a garden where children come and play, people come and relax, so it's a place of relaxation. Then we do borrowing and lending, and from January 2024 up to now, we have reached out to above 8,000 people through library services. And then the library has got other activity that it does. We have a program that we call institutional support, where the library visits the Kwanda Provincial Hospital so that they read out to admitted children. You find that the children that are admitted in hospitals, they tend to miss out from school activities. So if they miss out from school activities, we as an organization are saying, no, let us go to the children that are admitted. And you find that the numbers of children admitted in the hospitals, they increase, especially during winter when it's cold. Some of them, they catch colds. Some of them, they have got burns. And we have reached out to 106 children from January up to date at the hospital. So we don't want them to miss out from education, so we give them reading material so that as they are at the hospital, they continue to interact with the reading material. Then we also believe that when we also give women at the hospital, expecting mothers, we give them books so that they can read out to their unborn children as they are waiting to deliver at the hospital. Because we believe that when they read out to their children, they will be inculcating, they can communicate with the unborn child, therefore inculcating a reading culture to these unborn children, so that when they are born, they can then develop the love of reading. Because in Africa general, when it comes to literacy and reading, we tend to concentrate on the minimum. So as an organization, we are there to promote literacy development. Our theory of change is that information is a key catalyst to development. And we believe that when people are given information, they can then use that information to come out of their situation and circumstances and find some strategies of moving out of poverty, moving out of the challenge that they are facing. So that's why we emphasize on information. Then we also give out reading material to expecting mothers that come to Kwanda Provincial Hospital so that they can interact with the reading materials and give their children, read to their children that they are bringing to the hospital for various activities, so that they read out some stories to them. So that's what we do with the hospital program. Then we have, under the same focus area, we've got the rural schools outreach program, where we are reaching, in Kwanda district, the 112 primary schools, and as an organization, we are now present in more than 85 primary schools in rural areas. So we've got various programs that we're running in with these schools. We've got 43 schools that are under the Pioneer Book Box program. Here we targeted those schools that are satellite schools, those schools which are in farmhouses, which are under-resourced schools. We gave them 200 books and a box to give them a startup so that they supplement the reading material for those children in those schools. Because we don't want our rural children to reduce the gap between the urban and the rural. Because in a district where I come from, there's a serious digital divide and a serious information gap between the urban and the rural children. So we're trying to bridge that gap as an organization. That's why we go to these people in the rural areas. Then we have program that we call Inspiring Readers. So these programs, we get books from Book Aid International, which is a charitable organization that we've been working with since inception, which gives us these books. And they give us other various programs. So we also have an Inspiring Readers program, where we're establishing micro libraries in schools, giving those schools a steel cabinet, 1,500 books. So we've got 5 schools under that program. And what we do, we train the head teacher, the deputy head teacher, and the 2 teacher librarians so that they man the library. But it's due to rural teacher mobility. Rural teachers want to move into urban areas to teach in urban schools. So we train more than 2 teachers so that when the librarian moves, then there's somebody who's trained. We train and certify because we are trainers of trainers. We were trained by Phuket International. Then we have another program that we call a book box program, which is the program that gave birth to the organization that we started with. So we are present in 33 schools, where we take 300 books using our book boxes to schools. So every opening, 2 weeks into opening of the term, we deliver books. 2 weeks into closing, we collect the books. Then we rotate these books thrice per annum in these schools. Then we also have another program that we call the Books to Go program, which we have established in 3 schools. We chose these schools with high enrollment, and it was strategic because now our strategy, we want to expand beyond Kwanda district. So as we expand beyond Kwanda district, we are taking on board more schools. So it means that we will be taking more boxes coming into the library, which now congest our library. Then we're saying, no, for these schools that we've been working with, let us now develop 1 or 2 of them so that they become hub libraries. So our strategy is that by 2026, we should have established 3 hub libraries, so that when we move out of Kwanda district, these other schools that we've been working with, they don't bring their boxes to the library, but they take them to the hub libraries so that they can be prepared at the hub libraries. It's another way of inculcating sustainability into these schools that we've been working with. Then we also have some programs that we call community reading initiatives. So as an organization, we won projects from Phuket International, where they gave us books and the money to purchase locally published books, and they also gave us money to purchase the steel cabinets, which we use to establish micro libraries, and then the money to purchase some wrapper boxes that are used by teachers to take these books around the school when they are doing bulky borrowing from the library. So in this program, we were given, each school was receiving 2,058 books and 200 book bags. The book bags are for those children that travel long distances so that they are protected against the wetty weather conditions, so that books are protected as they move long distances, because most rural children, they don't have sections to carry their books. So that's Books to Go. This program was born after the COVID-19 era. We saw that when there was a lockdown, the rural children never had any interaction with reading material because, one, they don't have access to internet connectivity, they don't have access to books, reading material, they don't have access to smartphones because of their vulnerabilities. So we're saying with this program, they must have access to books over the weekends. Saturday, Sunday, they take books with them. Yes, when we're assessing the program, we take into consideration that there is borrowing and lending because we've got objectives that we want to achieve there. One, we want to increase the reading culture in schools. We want to increase availability of reading material in schools. But then when we are assessing the project, we focus mainly on the borrowing on weekends, borrowing on over holidays, because it's called Books to Go. So they have to take the books with them. So we consider that they ought to have books anyway, anytime, so that at any time over the holiday, they can interact with the books. And deliberately in the schools, we choose teacher librarians who are also community members, who come from the communities. And we're lucky that in these 3 schools, we found teacher librarians that are also based in the communities. So over the holiday, they are able to borrow out books. There's borrowing and lending that takes place. So we hope that if we mobilize more resources, then these schools would be graduated into hub libraries. Then we have got the community reading initiatives, again, which whereby we established micro libraries at Kwanda Provincial Hospital. So they were targeting the inmates, were targeting the prison officers, were saying, let the people that are incarcerated receive books. interact with the reading material. Then let the prison officers that look after our members who are incarcerated, let them also further their studies. So they also requested from us project books. And it was lucky that in 2021, as an organization, in collaboration with Matopo Research Station, we produced modules. A module in goat production, module in chicken production, both broilers and indigenous, modules on horticulture, and we gave them these modules. These are the modules that we're using in the communities to provide them with information as they embark on these other livelihood programs that we deal with in the communities. So that's on focus area number 1, which is education, information, and library services. Because we are an information-driven organization, we have to provide people from the community with relevant information. Then focus area number 2, which is child protection. Because when you are dealing with children, there is need for us to protect these children against people that are working with the children, against any other things that may harm the children, and to expose them to their rights as children so that they can be aware of their rights. So we have got a child protection policy that is not just a blueprint, but a serious document that everyone who comes to NMT reads that document. It's sort of like a riot act that we read out to people so that they understand, because the issues of child protection, both at Edward and Love Memorial Trust and the 3 partners that we are dealing with, which is Masana Africa, KNH, and the Book Aid International, they put the child at the center of everything that we do, because that's the future of the nation, that's the future, that's the generation that we are looking forward to take over from us. So we realized that in the communities, through the survey that we carried out, most girls, they can't afford to buy sanitary pads. And then in collaboration with our friends in Sweden, here in Sweden, we started a program of reusable sanitary pads. We have been receiving sanitary pads from as far as Sweden to Zimbabwe, but then we said, we looked at this thing, through that collaboration again, in that partnership, said, no, this thing is not sustainable. Why don't we start producing these sanitary pads in rural areas? So through the program that I'm going to explain, which is Study Cycles, there's a group now that is manufacturing these sanitary pads, and we are distributing these sanitary pads in the rural communities. So the package that we have under this menstrual hygiene learner support services is one child who's vulnerable, they get 8 reusable sanitary pads, 2 bags, 3 bags, 1 for putting all the 8, then 1 for putting the used pad when they go to school and then they change, and the other one for putting the unused pad. And we also give them briefs, because it's pointless to give somebody sanitary pads while they might not be having the briefs. So we also give them the brief, the toothbrush, and the towel. So that on its own, we're trying to give a holistic approach to the child, to look at the child in a holistic manner, develop the child in a holistic manner. So that's on learner support services. Then we also have a program that we're running again, funded by Elma Masano Africa, funded by some people here from Sweden, some families in Sweden, where we link some children with families in Sweden that now pay their school fees. So we have 16 children currently that are benefiting from our school fees assistance program. And we are looking forward to expand this program. We have very good change stories that we have seen. One of our children that we funded from primary is now doing engineering in China. One is doing engineering in India. One is involved with the Ministry of Health as a health technician in Pebble District. So to us, we're now tracking. We track the people that we find. Not everyone will be successful. Some fall out along the way, but we track our children. And in the selection, there's a thorough selection process that goes on for one to benefit in the school fees assistance program. Then we come to the economic empowerment focus area and climate smart agriculture focus area. This is where by now we are having our community outreach program, where we go into the communities and we form what we call study cycles, which is again an idea that was borrowed from Sweden when we were working with Africa groups of Sweden, Africa Groupena. So we use the concept of study cycles because we are saying 6 to 12 people, they come together. When they come together, they have a common denominator. Their common denominator, it can be an interest in gold production, can be in an interest in crafting, it can be an interest. So then they start that particular concept. And when we scratch around and get something, we then find, or they can find means of, through the information that we give them, means of coming out of those situations and circumstances. And this that exactly have given the birth of what we have, the community integrated gardens. So currently we run 5 integrated gardens. We no longer call them, in Zimbabwe we call them nutritional gardens. It's a land of about 1 hectare or 1.5 hectares of land. We no longer call them nutritional gardens because we are saying, no, we are coming from a dry region. People have got goats, which is another source of livelihood. Then these goats have to be taken care of. So now in the garden, we make it a must that there's a section for fodder, there's a section for human nutrition. Then biodiversity there is a serious reduction in threatening of biodiversity. So then we say, no, let us grow fruit trees. Because if I were to go to people and say, let's grow indigenous trees around here, they will say, we don't have time for that. But if we say, let's grow fruit trees, people know that these fruit trees are going to give us food. And we want our rural people to have access to fresh fruits like their urban counterparts. So we, in partnership with Forest Commission, we give our gardens fruit trees. So we have planted 55 fruit trees in Simpilonte Garden in Ward 17. We planted 89 fruit trees in Ward 15, Amokalang Group. We planted fruit trees in Chanyahokwe, 75 fruit trees. We planted fruit trees in Zenzele Garden. We planted fruit trees in the Zenzele Garden and Vugu Zenzele Garden. So we've been planting fruit trees. And we planted fruit trees at Silonga Primary and Silonga Secondary. So we're saying, let them have access to fruits. Then the other integration comes in that in these gardens, we also have fish ponds, which were funded again by our colleagues, our friends here in Sweden, right? So these fish ponds are 10 by 10 by 1.5. Then the other one is 25 by 25 by 1.5. And we introduced the tilapia fish, which is a Caribbean bream. So then we harvested, and it's doing very well. The project is doing very well. It's a growing project with now which is also self-contained, because they are now getting fingerlings from their dams. We no longer need to buy fingerlings from a very far distances, because now we have fingerlings. So the project is now self-contained, and we are looking forward to expand this project. Then we also have a gold production in rural areas. So we've got 12 groups, statistical groups under gold production. And then we said, no, as an organization that believes in relevant and current information, we're to invite one of the gold specialists and had a 3-day workshop with lead farmers. And then we are saying we want to follow up on what is happening after having been trained. So our farmers used to have the Matebele goats, and they used to the fact that the seller, when it comes there, it determines the price. And through these statistical discussions, we have said, no, the seller does not determine the price, but the owner or the farmer determines the price. Then we taught them about goat board scoring and goat vaccination, dosing calendars, and all those things, and having good breeds. So then we introduced a Kalahari bug and a Boer bug to our communities, and said, no, let us change the breeds that we have and bring up high meat yielding breeds. That's why we introduced these stud bugs in the community that we are working with. Then after introducing that, we then went further, and as an organization established what we call the goat person scheme. We sourced goats, 75 she goats as an organization, that we are passing on to the communities. So the program, we rolled it out this year. We started it last year to increase our stock as an organization. Then we rolled out the project this year. So one group which is called Renali Tsepo in Ward 15 benefited 17 she goats. Then we have another group that benefited the she-goats, 17 she-goats, which is in Ward 17. So the two groups, then the other group, which is in Ward 14, benefited 17 she-goats. And what we said, we don't form the rule. The goats belong to NMT, but we don't make rules on how this person scheme should go about. They formed their own rules and the constitution. So the rule of thumb there is that one, when you have received 17 she-goats, at the end of the year, you must come and pass on to another group 17 she-goats. Whether to you they gave birth or they died, but you must bring what? 17 she-goats. So that is the rule, number one, because we don't want the project to die. So we are kind of like tightening screws on that project, because we don't want people to, we are given goals, then they turn them into meat. So the thing is, once we get 17, bring 17. But then in our strategic plan, we are saying it's running from 2024 to 2028. We wanted by 2028, each of these 12 goal groups, in each household, they must have 50 she-goats per household. Not she-goats, 50 goats per household, so that they can sell and improve their livelihoods. So there's an organization that we did market linkage. We linked with another organization. We did all the paperwork as an organization, and only what we did was to take this organization, after we had done all the paperwork, to these communities, because we know that when they get there, communities might not be in a position to fix prices for their goats. So we sold 60 by $80 goats for this other gold group, which is in Ward 15. And that is that speaks to our focus area on economic empowerment. So they are also now selling fruit trees in this garden that I'm talking about. Some are selling vegetables and other garden produce, which speaks to our economic development, economic empowerment to our rural communities. Then we have another program where we are working with KNH organization in Bay Bridge. We got another partner that we are working with in Bay Bridge, and we are focusing again on economic empowerment, but under a program that we call Women Self-Help Group. So it's a self-help group approach. It focuses solely on women. And you might maybe have a question, why women? Women carry the burden of poverty. When you want to see poverty in rural areas, you would see it in the face of a woman. And they are the ones that take care of their children. So we're focusing, we want to develop these women so that we also develop the children, because we have a focus area on child protection. So on this self-help group approach, we are saying we don't choose women that come into the self-help group program, but the communities, they choose the women. So the criteria is we need poorest of the poor. So they must be of this homogeneous group. If you are focusing on the poorest of the poor, they must be of the same economic status. We don't need those with high economic status or whatsoever, but they should be of the same economic status, and they should start small businesses and start savings from as little as 50 cents. So most of our groups started saving from as little as 50 cents, and now I'm very happy to discuss with you that one of the groups in Ward 10 in Bay Bridge is now circulating from June up to now. They're now circulating more than $281. And the money that they save, they loan it to each other so that they start small businesses, from as small as selling sweets, selling tomatoes, then they grow gradually. And we want this group to be sustainable. So that we are focusing mainly on women with the self-help group program.
That's very, very interesting. And it sounds much like a thing we have in Sweden, where the workers got together and they started, they thought that the prices at the affair was very high. So they got together and started their own affair, and they benefited from it. And then they developed it, and now it's one of the Sweden's largest work chain. But it sounds a lot like when you talk about this, that your organization is a big part of the everyday life in your region. Where is the state in this?
Yes, our organization is a local NGO. So then we make it a point that as a local organization, we know that come 50 years down the line, the faces working for the organization might be the ones that change, but the organization's mandate should remain enforced. And it must, as it is rooted in the communities, it must make sure and make a follow-up that the communities do benefit, not that we just come there, we sell maybe a dummy project to the communities, and 2, 3 years down the line we vanish. We are a local organization established in the name of somebody who is coming from that community. So that is what drives our mandate. That is what drives all our initiatives and connects us to the communities. So we are connected to the communities. What makes us to be successful is the connection, and that we don't prescribe to the communities what we think can be solutions to their problems, but we allow them to lead us and tell us what they think can be the solution to their problems. Because when you go with a development prescription, then it is a way of planning to fail. So we don't prescribe development initiatives to the communities, but we engage them and we get their views through the surveys that we conduct. So one of the most important things that we do is to conduct research and surveys on what communities want and what they believe can be some solutions to their problems. How can they come out of their situation and circumstances? Then if we get funding in those areas, we also capacitate or frog jump them with some funding. Then that becomes sustainable.
On the question of funding, it's a large organization you have, and you must have some funding. Where are your funding coming from? Do you get funded by the state? Are you having fundings from other parts of the world, like the Swedish SIDA organization? How do you run everything?
Right. Thank you for that question. From inception, for the past 18 years, we were being funded by Africa Groups of Sweden, and our contract expired with Africa Groups of Sweden, which I believe from the institutional memory, the organization was comfortable with having Africa Groups because we're working very well. They took us to where we are today, but then they also recommended another organization during their tenure, which was then Elma Philanthropies, which has now since changed to Elma Musana Africa. That's another stable partner that we have been working with for some time, but we're working with them, focusing particularly in children, but they give us an unrestricted fund. But it is not enough to run our organization. Then we also have Edward and Love Community Libraries. As an organization, we gained a charitable status in Canada. We are fundraising in Canada. We fundraise in Canada, but all these programs, all these funders, it's not enough to run our organization and run with our vision and the mission. So we are seriously in dire situation of funding. We've got a budget deficit of about 45,000, but we have come up with some strategies of circumventing the budget deficit and move forward. Then we also have got a new partner, which is Kinder Notleaf, KNH, if I'm not pronouncing it well, but I'm comfortable by calling it KNH because I can't pronounce the whole name. So that's the one that a new partner that we found that we are working with in the area of self-help groups. Then we've got another partner who gives us the books, Book Aid International. We value the books that they give us at 50,000. So these are the partners that we are working with, but still we remain with some budget deficit, and we came up with some strategies at management level, at board level, where we make the decisions and the strategies of taking the organization forward. Right? Since now we have serious funding challenges, we are in the drive to raise or approach more potential funders, and we do some donor mapping. We look for them, we engage them, and we are still trying to engage those that that we once worked with. But it is a serious challenge to get funding in nowadays, because funding is sort of restricted, maybe due to the war-torn countries. Most of the funding is channeled to those areas. But we're still hopeful and pessimistic, still engaging more people to come on board. So what we do, we've undergone operational restructuring and undergone financial restructuring. So under operational restructuring, we made some positions redundant because the organization was sort of top heavy. So all the management people, they are now at officer level. That's an operational restructuring process whereby we're saying all those that retired in the organization would not replace them. All those that left the organization would not replace them, but were to merge some positions. Like you had, I said, education, information, and library services. Those areas were once under 3 people: the librarian, the schools coordinator, and the programs coordinator. But now they're under 1 person. So it's a way of saying, no, with the difficulties that we're in, how best can we move forward? Then operational restructuring was the best way forward, was the best foot forward. So to make some positions redundant and merge positions so that we remain impactful in the communities. Then on financial restructuring, we looked at all those other things that were gobbling more funds in the organization and were to cut them off. And then we now respect the 80-20% rule, that 80% of what the donor gives us or the partner gives us must go direct to the communities, and the 20% should cover the administrative cost. Then we have a situation, we have come up with a situation that the partner or the project, we have separated projects. We now don't use the pool account. Each project has its own account, sub-account, that we know that this project funds, this person is working for this project and is funded from there, and these activities, they fund these other activities. Then there are recurring costs. Now we've got a cost-sharing policy as an organization that all these partners now, there are some recurring costs like internet services, telephone services, transport, lights, and all electric services. So now we've got a sharing, a policy for cost sharing. So this was a way of trying to restructure and trying to improve the systems within the organization. So when you strengthen your systems, it means the little cent that comes in is put into maximum usage.
The ENMT sounds like a really important organization, and I want to know, as a common Swede as me, how do I support ENMT, and how do I follow your work?
Okay, we are present in all social medias. We are present on Instagram, present on Facebook. We are present on Twitter. We have a website and a donate button on our website. When you go to our website, a donate, and you can state which a program do you want to donate to, you want to support from that website. Then you'll be given your receipt, your acknowledgement that you've donated, and that money goes direct into the NMT account. Then it's then separated, goes to different projects, transferred to different projects.
That's really, really lovely. And I want to talk more about the study circles, which is a concept you borrowed from the ABF.
Yes.
Can you talk more about study circles? How are they incorporated, and how do you use them? And do you see any benefits of them, or is there something you want to inspire us to do? What can we do better in Sweden with study circles?
Study circles are the best way of bringing people with a common interest together. And they are the best way of giving the community members relevant information. They come together, they discuss their problems. As they come together, they get to be intimate at each other. They get to be too close to each other. So as you become close to each other, there is that increase in the economy of affection. So then they work together. They pool their resources together. It's a concept that we borrowed, yes, from Sweden, and it's been working very well with us, and we don't intend to change it anytime soon, because it has been working very well. And even if you look at the concept that we are moving on with to other districts, we're still moving on with the concept of the study circles, because we believe that when they form study circles, then the study circles will then pour into ward associations. Then the ward associations are then also managed by district associations. So these people, they come together, we help them to come up with constitutions to manage their groups. Then they also come up with constitutions. So a number of study circles, they form ward associations. Then the ward associations, they form district associations. Then they manage each other. So it means that when we have study circles, then there is no way a member of the study circle can cheat the other member because they have that economy of affection. So it is an important concept of driving relevant information into the communities, of driving economic empowerment, of driving social development of the people, of driving political awareness of the people. Because in the study circles, a lot is discussed beside economic empowerment. There are issues to do with their social well-being, their hygiene, how they should treat each other in their homes, how they should deal with their marriages, how they should deal with inheritance issues, how they should deal with divorce issues. A lot of issues are discussed there. And when they come together, they cook, they eat. When we eat together, we begin to trust each other. We get more closer to each other. So strengthening that economy of affection. So we believe it's a very good concept that most organizations which want to have impact in the communities, they must adopt it, because they can pull their resources together without us giving them funding, because funding is difficult to come by. We can tell them, okay, you want to be into goat production. Bring in 2 goats, bring 2 goats, bring 2 goats. Then they are goats now of the study cyclists. They are now managed within that pool. So it's also a way of bringing resources together and trying to come out of their challenges.
You started in 1990 and have now been active for 34 years, and the organization is still expanding. What do you need to expand further?
Right. One of the things that we need more partners coming on board. We need competent employees, and we need to improve in our programming. If we improve our programming and be in line with the current trends, for example, in the area that we come from, issues to do with climate change are a daily reality. And we must be seen addressing those issues as an organization. When there are political issues that are affecting the people, we must be seen addressing the needs of the people, the current challenges that they are having. So that speaks to our programming, that speaks to our strategic planning, and it speaks to us with these documents that we call strategic plans, operational plans, and the budget. They must not just be blueprint documents, but they should be the Bible guiding us. They should be the Bible guiding us. They should be the direction that we follow. So these are the documents that guide us, and we give them seriousness that they deserve. So those are the documents which guide us to move forward as an organization.
I have one last question for you. I want you to think out loud for about 2 minutes of the future of the Gwanda region, Zimbabwe, and your organization. What is the future? What do you think?
Right. What I envision doing in Gwanda district, one is the issue of dam rehabilitation. If I can get people who can come on board, because Timakulia Dam in Ward 7, we lost more than 150 cows, animals in that dam, including wildlife. So I want a situation whereby we can do dam rehabilitation, we can educate people on our catchment areas, how to manage the catchment areas. Then we have established some irrigation schemes whereby people will come together and grow food in that irrigation scheme, so that we avert these food insecurities in the region. So if we deal with food insecurities, then it means people will also have money to send their children to school. So I also envision a literate Gwanda society. I want to see people being literate. I was born and bred in rural areas, but through education, I have come out of, you can't say I'm in poverty, I have come out of that situation through education. But I grew up, I was once a rural boy in Stezi village. I attended that school there. I still visit it. I still contribute to it. So I want to see the children from that area being literally empowered. And I want to see the community members where I grew up being economically empowered. And I want to see them, the youth of the region, coming out of this drug and substance abuse and concentrating or taking these level projects as their daily thing, as their way of living. So this is what I dream of in the Gwanda community. And I dream of a community that is politically conscious and where there is social justice in the communities, where people, they know that they may differ politically, but remain as people of Kwanda and move forward as the people of Kwanda, leaving no one and no place behind. That's my dream.
That's fantastic to hear. I must thank you. I am very impressed of your work, and I hope that the organization will still improve. Thank you so much, Michael Moyo, for joining us tonight.
Oh, well, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Det här var Sossepodden Akt 5. Jag är Truls Forsman. Podden spelas in tillsammans med ABF. Tack så mycket för att ni lyssnat och tittat.